so here we are. I've just picked up a couple of toys and I'm going to get them off. You can see I've put a little chain block up there off the tree. Hope that's strong enough there. 350 kilos for this 40-ton log splitter. And I've got a set of pallet forks I've got to get off as well. Might end up using the skid steer to get them off, but we'll just see how easy it is to manoeuvre. It's all pretty wet and slimy around here, so I don't want to be driving all over it and chewing it up. So we'll just see, give this first one a go. Basically the plan is to just put some straps around it, lift it up, drive the car out from under it, lower it down on the ground, and then put it together, and then it'll just fit on the tow bar and we can tow it away. All right, so my first attempt has not worked. You can just see how much stretch and movement we've had out of that line, so I'll have to release it, come up with a better way to leave that line up high. So I'm essentially, at the moment, I'm just pulling the block down onto this. I need it to be the other way, lift that up. So change of plan. I've ditched the nylon rope idea and I'm just going with all chain because I found a little bit of chain. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so that's worked. It's currently taking all the load there. Spin it around, whatever. So I'm just going to drive the ute away and then lower it down. That should work, I hope. And we're down. Beautiful. No pressure on it. Happy days. All right, it's time to unbox this 40-ton log splitter with a 13 horsepower manual start engine. Looks like it's made in China. It says that everywhere on it. I know you can buy these with a, I think it's a Honda motor, and there's another model, the 50-tonner, comes with a Briggs & Stratton motor. But I just went with this Chinese one. I imagine that's the name of the company. How would you pronounce that? Fugan? Maybe Fugan? Anyway, classically in these sorts of things, you pull the box off and then you've got to start putting the thing back together. But I'm just sort of hoping that it's all put together, ready to go, and I just got to put oil and fuel in it. In fact, I don't even know if it's a 4-stroke or a 2-stroke motor. But anyway, so Fugan, or say Fugan, if that company's got its act together, hopefully it'll just look like that, which would be Fugan great. Okay, well, let's see what we get. Let's just pull apart. We did get a tiny bit of weather last night, a little bit of rain. So the box is a little bit soft, but that's good, makes it easier. Ah, right, so we're in a box there. Yeah, there you go, there's a wheel. So I'm probably going to have to do some work to put it together. That's to be expected, I suppose. It's not Fugan great, but anyway, could be worse. All right, I'll get the cardboard off. We don't need to see me doing that. I'll just get that off, break the crate down and put it together. So I've got my trusty hammer to dismantle this box, and I've also brought along the gentle persuader, which normally convinces these things to open up. You've got to love leverage. Leverage. Left-handed, even. Oop. Okay, so it does require an element of assembly, and I can tell you that that big long bit there is Fugan heavy. It does have some sort of a manual there, so I'll just get to work and work out how to put it all together. Moving that out of there just about killed me. I should have used the chain block. Anyway, okay, this is what they call well, it comes in a cardboard box, so they call that your hardware box. It gives you all the quantities here. So far, I've definitely got all of that, and I'm guessing I'll have all of that in here. So that's good. And then we'll get into it. Yeah, safety stuff. Setup. attach tow bar to the oil tank. Okay, I'm just going to get into this and see how we go. Well, I've just done a quick count of the components in the hardware box, and yes, we've got everything it says we should. So now I can start building. So the first thing we've got to do is attach this hydraulic tank to the drawbar, and you can put it that way because they're just the axles. They're just sitting on soft dirt and the cardboard. So I'll just tilt that up, and we use these 4 bolts here to attach there onto this part of the hydraulic tank. I'll do that. All right, my first component mistake is the first component I've been putting on. I put the put the hydraulic tank on the wrong way around. That needs to be facing that away. Silly me. So putting the wheels on is just a matter of taking this protective stuff off, the rubber bands. You'll find you've got your split pin, your castle nut or castellated nut, and a washer. Over here you've got your tyre, and it's got caps on your bearings, so you just want to be careful when you put this on that your bearings don't pop off. And of course you want the valve facing out so it's easy to pump your tyre up. And they give you a little cap to go on. Here's the side I've already done, and that looks quite nice. Little cap to cover your bearings. They're sort of oiled up, but they're not heavily greased, so I may it's like a very light oil rather than a grease, so I might get some. I got some marine trailer grease, so I'll let this go for a while, and then I'll probably pack them with that. And that's the cap that you put on last. All right, let's get this one on. So once you've got those wheels on, you put the little mud guards on, and I've done that now. And I've also, I think that went on beforehand, this little rear base plate. And the only sort of tricky bit there was, of course, you have the reflector facing backwards. They tell you to use a 30mm bolt with a washer and a nylock nut, and I took it easy and I just put them in, and then at the end of it, after you've done that, before I did them all up, thank goodness, they say don't forget to put the black spacer washer in. So that's just a little tip when you're putting that bit together. Don't forget to put that in before you go tightening everything up. So now we move on to the engine base plate, which I've put in just loosely. Same nuts and bolts, no spacers this time, so I'll do it up. Okay, so now it says I've got to put this the H-beam to the tow bar, which is this big thing, and it is super heavy. So that's sort of why I didn't assemble this anywhere else. I thought I might still be able to use that chain block, and I'm going to put a couple of slings around that, lift it up, and then roll this thing into position. Because if you had to do it by yourself, it would be very awkward. So this is making life a hell of a lot easier to place that on this. Just lifted it up, slide that under, and now I'll lower it down and see how we go. Before you put this on, they say to remove this pin, this one here. So that pin there, which normally sits in there, they want you to get rid of that. So for the record, that's the way you want it facing, with this round eye there will go through there, I guess, and that bit will come down and sit down, and I guess that pin will go through there to lock it down. So this is one of those models that you can pull that pin out and then rotate it up. So I will put it in position and lower it down. So that took quite a bit to line that up to get that pin in through there, and this lock on here like that. And so I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have this sort of set up to manipulate it into place, but that's, I mean, maybe a couple of strong mates would make it possible, but yeah, it'd be very easy to do your back in on that sort of stuff. So maybe you want to get a little block and tackle like this. So I'm getting a bit confused with this part where it says attach the hydraulic hose valve oil tank 101 to the return oil pipe connector of the oil tank and put an O-ring in the middle of them. And you look here, and I guess that's somewhere down in under there. But it's doing my head in, so I'm just going to leave it for now, and I'm going to move on, and I'm going to start working on this engine. So the first thing you do is you pull out this little, I suppose you'd call that a Woodruff key, would you? And then there's, with your little hydraulic pump here, there's a bag full of bits and pieces. So it talks about bushings and stuff, so we'll see what's going on here and try and get it all sorted, get it together and keep moving on, and then I'm sure working out where those pipes connect will sort of become self-explanatory. All right, got to put an engine bushing on, so that would be that. It's got a little, it's bloody not the best. It's got like a little lip in there from where it's, the join in the pipe is. Anyway, I don't think that'll matter too much because it can, oh yeah, bit of space there. All right, I'll keep going. So it talks about putting the bush in and then putting that Woodruff key back in and then putting this, what does it call that? Engine connector. Okay, then the gear pump assembly to the engine by using hex bolts, blah, blah, blah. So that must hook onto here somewhere, in there at the bottom to drive it. So this plate goes up against there. So I'll do that. So yeah, looking at the diagram, where are we here? Looks to me like it sits like that with this bit, this open face here. And then it's just these bolts with a washer and a lock washer. They go in here, as far as I can tell. That'll pull all of that in nice and tight. Leaves that sitting there like that. So I'll just nip those up. So those bolts are in, nice and tight, and now it's just putting this cover on here with these tiny little bolts. Okay, so we're on the home stretch now. Basically this comes around and goes into this side of the pump. There. This one is the one I had dramas with, that right at the start just didn't look like it wanted to go anywhere. So getting that in there and that shape took a bit to get that happening. What I actually ended up doing was lifting pivoting the whole unit up and then looking at it from that perspective, and I just had to sort of loosen this and play around with it a bit, and you do get a bit of hydraulic fluid comes out while you're doing that. So that's that, and then you got what I think they call it a suction line. You can see there it's sort of pinched a bit there, and also over on the other side, but it's the best I could do, unless, you know, maybe I might try and get a heat gun on it, but I don't think that'll help. So so that's that bit. So that's your connections essentially. Just got to remember to put O-rings in, and now I'm just putting these guards on. Just got to do this one up, and then it's got another bit that goes in there. But yeah, we're basically on. When you put the engine on, you'll see down here you've got to put these little bushes. They're like little engine mounts, just to probably take some of the vibration out. That's a bit fiddly too, but not impossible. Okay guys, so it's just basically time to clean up my mess. I've got a couple of little bolts left. I've got one little washer down here and 4 little bolts that came in that engine pack, so I'm not exactly sure what they're for. So I'll have a bit of a look. But other than that, she's all together. I started this project at 9 o'clock this morning. It's now about 2 o'clock, so it's not an easy, quick job, and there's some very heavy components in it, hence the chain block. Probably be easier now that I've done it once. I'm sure I could do it probably a lot quicker, but you know, if you take your time, you end up with a completed 40-ton log splitter. Can't wait to put it through its paces. So I reckon those other 4 bolts are just for a different type of faceplate. If you had a different mounting bracket rather than this one, I think they go in 1, 2, 3, and there's another one over there, 4. There's probably, yeah, there's one over there. So probably a setup for, you know, a different drive coming off the motor. That's all I can imagine. I'm just going to keep them off to the side and not worry about it. And I think we'll be fine. Time to get all the fluids in and get it going. So I decided to put some Teflon tape on here and this fitting as well. I figured I should do it right. I mean, they give you the stuff, so yeah. And now just fill her up with fluids and see how we go. So I read in the instructions it says 3 gallons of hydraulic fluid in here. And as far as checking it, there's a dipstick on the filler cap. They say that you should screw this in so the top of the threads are equal to the top of the pipe, and then take your reading from that. So far no leaks that I'm aware of, so I will carry on. All right, so it's a brand new day and we're at the stage now of topping up the engine oil and then adding unleaded and giving it a few cycles to get it going, make sure it all works. The little note on the dipstick says fill engine oil before starting, and it even tells you 1.1 litre. So yesterday I went out and got 10W30 1 litre of, and that's what they recommend here. They say it's shipped without engine oil, so I'm assuming it only holds 1.1 litre. However, this manual says it has got oil in it. Anyway, the 100 mils to add to that, I got this stuff because it's quite red, and that will help colour up the oil so I can, you know, check it on the dipstick. Although it's not that hard because you're supposed to fill it right to the threads of the filler point, as you can see here. So you don't even really need the dipstick. What I like to do with a brand new motor like this is to run it maybe for a day or two and then drop that oil out of it and then put good stuff in. So this oil, yeah, won't be in there for very long. The reason for me doing that is that when they put the threads in these things and tap, so there's those 2 points. They've got quite a lot of thread on them, and all the other little engine components with a brand new motor, as they're tapping threads, you don't know if they've cleaned out all the swarf, the bits of metal from putting the threads in. So I like to run it a bit, which will free up any little bits of swarf that are lying around in the engine compartment, and then dump that oil out. Another thing I really like to do on the sump plug is to put a magnet on it, if I can. If it's a metal plug, you can put a magnet on there, and that in turn will help attract any iron filings or anything like that. Now, aluminium, of course, and anything that's non-magnetic won't help, but yeah, it's just a good way to capture any bits of wear and tear over the years. Each time you do your oil change, you'll see if you've got any little iron filings on that head of that sump bolt. All right, enough yabbering. Get some fuel in it and start her up. All right, well, it's just idling at the moment. I've taken this optional accessory off that splits it into 4, and I'm just going to give it couple of cycles first to warm up any hydraulic fluid, and then see how I go splitting my first ever log. Well, fingers crossed you go. Well, proof's in the pudding, isn't it? How good's that? Does it easy. I'm really a little bit scared of this thing. It's got that much power. Don't want to get my fingers anywhere near it, but I'm sure I'll get comfortable with it. Well, just a very quick review at the end of another day of splitting. So I've dragged this machine all over the property, and it's done really, really well. You can see the jockey wheel is covered in dirt. It bounced off the tow ball today, so the chains actually held it. I was only going slowly up to start using it, and what that was that this hadn't been adjusted correctly, so fix that. Other than that, it's been faultless. Works really well, goes through everything quite easily, so pretty happy with that. And we've got a lot of wood split, so that's only 2 or 3 days worth of owning it so far. But yeah, engine works fine, hydraulics work fine, no leaks. It's a great bit of kit. What you got going on in your belly there, Mum? Is that Joey?